What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by the one, the only Kev. We are here to recap, review, and discuss the San Francisco 49ers versus the LA Rams. The Rams take this highest scoring Thursday night football game of all time, 41-39. And who would have thought that these would be the two teams to give it to us, Kev? But they did it, 41-39. They gave us, and they gave Thursday Night Football a jolt that it desperately needed, because I don't remember the last Thursday Night Football game I actually enjoyed. That doesn't include the openers, of course. This was a crazy game. This was a great game to watch. Now, there's something to say about the quality of these teams, which we'll get to, but the quality of the entertainment was high. Kev, what did you think about this game?
Well, first of all, I think that do we start with the negative or the positive? I'm Canadian. Let's start with the positive. This was a fun game. It was very exciting. Congratulations to 49ers. They scored. They scored 5 times as more points this game than they have the entire season. So we congratulate the San Francisco 49ers on that. Good job. Good job. And it was exciting. It was one of the better Thursday night football games. It might be one of the best in the last 3 years of Thursday nights. Thursday nights, not of all time, but of Thursday nights for sure. But you know me, I have to complain. The LA Rams look like bumblebees, and I think that had a lot to do why the 49ers were struggling defensively. They actually couldn't see with this bright yellow nonsense that was on there.
I don't mind their jerseys. I especially like the 49ers jerseys.
I like the 49ers jerseys, but the Rams jerseys, I'm not sure if they were trying to be the Michigan Wolverines or Honey Mustard or Bumblebees, but they just weren't working for me. But I think this was an exciting game, but I think there are some cautions. And I want to bring up a stat here, because we're going to get into the LA Rams, and I think some people are starting to see the Rams as a really good team. Just want to
like AC, for example.
Yes, I want to bring up something from last week. Robert Kelly, 12 carries for 78 yards. Chris Thompson, 3 carries for 77 yards. Perrine, 21 carries for 67 yards. I just don't look at the Rams when they face a good team like the Seattle Seahawks or a really
Are they a good team, though?
Yes, they're fine. Enough of this. They're 10,000 times better than the Rams.
They lose to them every year, though.
That's true. I don't know why. But I just think when the Rams face a really strong team, it's just not going to be – and the Redskins aren't that strong, but it's not going to be the same. They're growing. They're in the right spot. But I still think – I think to call them legit, to call them someone to watch out for, I'm sorry – no. They scored.
I agree with you, Kev. I think neither of these teams are worthy of looking out for per se, but it was an exciting game, and I think it was actually a birth of a rivalry. We had both creative offensive geniuses, arguably 2 of the 3 best offensive play callers in the league right now. You have Kyle Shanahan of the 49ers, who you guys know I love. One of my favorite coaches in the league, up and coming. Sean McVay, who I also really like, came from Washington, youngest head coach in the NFL. A lot of hate going around for him because of that, but he's proven himself so far.
I have been a fan.
Yeah, I've been a fan of him as well. And these two guys put on a showcase, and you just felt like every time their offenses had the ball, they were going to score because they were trying to outdo each other. It was actually amazing to watch in that regard. The creativity of the offenses was refreshing despite not having a lot of all-stars on either side of the ball. And I just think we're going to have a good rivalry between these two teams as long as these two guys are head coaches, which I think they will be for a long time. 41-39. Let's start going over the stats. So basically, again, 41-39 for the Rams. We'll start off with the winning team as we always do. Start off with the quarterback. Now, this may seem like a really impressive Jared Goff game. 22 for 28, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very, very solid. They made him look like Kurt Warner, 1999 edition. But I do have to caution, he was playing the 49ers secondary, which before the season started, I asked some people if they knew one player in their secondary, and a lot of people could not answer that question, and probably still cannot answer that question. Yes, they looked kind of decent the first 2 weeks, but they were playing a struggling Seahawks offense and an even more struggling Panthers offense. So you have two teams that were struggling, especially in the pass game, and the 49ers were kind of able to wrap up their run game. But in the Rams here, I think a lot of this credit has to go to Sean McVay and his creativity to use some of his weapons in the pass game. He used Robert Woods. Sammy Watkins had a breakout game in this one for the Rams. He used Todd Gurley in the pass game. So he used his best playmakers to the best of their ability in this game. And Jared Goff hit the open target. There's a lot of open throws for him. He made a couple really nice plays outside the pocket where he extended the play and hit, somebody near the sideline or something. But to me, I don't know if you saw the same thing, Kev, but like Jared Goff didn't make a ton of plays where he wowed me, but he just did his job well and he executed and he hit the open guy and he didn't make any mistakes, which was maybe the reason at the end of the day why they won this game.
Yeah, he's not spectacular. I don't think McVay is asking him to be spectacular, but he's getting the job done. Sammy Watkins is an interesting case because we've expected a lot more from him, but he had a breakout game. A lot of this, though, is dependent on Gurley, who is, I find, to be one of the more inconsistent running backs in the league. And tonight he was fairly solid, and that helps when they can get that running game going. It also helps when he doesn't throw balls to referees' faces. Just putting that out there from last week. But it was a solid performance, not a spectacular performance. He's getting better, but he's not flashy for sure.
And the way that they've set up this offense is for him to succeed. They took like that Cal style offense that he was successful with in college, and they kind of put that around him, and I think that's really helped him in terms of learning the offense, knowing who's open. And they also brought in a lot of weapons in the offseason. It definitely showed in this game. It's been showing all season, but it definitely showed in this game, just like pure talents like Sammy Watkins, even a guy like Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp, who only had 2 catches, but, and then you add on Andrew Whitworth, who's now playing left tackle for them, who they talked about during the game, during the broadcast, and Todd Gurley too. So this is a team, and even guys like Tavon Austin, a lot of talent, a lot of playmakers to choose from, and Jared Goff kind of has it all going for him right now. He wasn't very impressive against the Redskins to me personally. I didn't think he looked very good, but in this game, I think he had a bounce back performance. In terms of their running game, 28 rushes for Todd Gurley, 113 yards, 4.0 yards per carry, along with 29, 2 touchdowns, 1 fumble. This was a good game for Todd Gurley. He ran hard, he ran strong, he ran fast. This was probably like the fastest I've seen Gurley in a while. He was turning the corner with a lot of speed. We saw that on a couple of those runs to the end zone where he kind of went to the pylon. That was really good. He had lanes to run through, which was rare, especially last season for him. He definitely looks really good. He looked good in that regard. He also looked good in terms of the receiving game with 5 catches, 36 yards, and another touchdown. So he had 3 touchdowns in this game, 150 yards total. So if you had him on your fantasy team, this was a great game and probably the best of anyone this week, most likely. But Todd Gurley was really, really good for your fantasy team, but also good in real life. What did you see from Todd Gurley in this game that really stood out, Kev?
Well, first of all, if I have this right, and I may need to be fact-checked on this, this is the first time that he's rushed for 100 yards since his rookie season.
I wouldn't know that off the top of my head, but that feels right.
Okay, so maybe Dylan, who, if you're on the chat or you're watching, Dylan, can you fact check that because you're the stats guy? He was running really well. And you can run on the 49ers. If Chris Carson did it too, he got 93 yards last week. You can run on the 49ers, so that's not necessarily a surprise to me. But it was good to see him do a little bit more. He's getting a little bit better. He's a little bit faster, which is great because they had high expectations on this guy, and he hasn't lived up to them yet. So good on him to do that as well.
I was impressed in this game. 41-39 usually says to me that there's a lot of passing, but I was impressed in this game on how both offenses were very, very balanced. The Rams ran it 28 times. They actually ran more times than they passed. They ran 28 times with Gurley, 3 with Austin, and 1 with Goff, which was the kneel, I think. And then, so they had 32 carries technically, but 31 excluding the kneel. And then for San Fran, they threw it 37 because they were behind more, but they also had the ball more because they ran it 29, 32, 33 times. So it was a very balanced game on both sides. You got to credit both coaches and both just players in general for having success offensively. We'll get to the defenses in a bit. Tavon Austin also carried the ball 3 times for 14 yards. Any thoughts on him in terms of him being a running back?
This is another one of those guys with the Rams you want to be excited about. He's been around for so long. He's got speed. You want to use him as a deep threat. You want to use him in creative ways, and when Tavon Austin breaks out, Mitch, I will believe it when I see it. Do you know what I mean? I think he's got the ability. I don't know. This is really hard to say, but does he have the passion and desire to what it takes to be a legitimate National Football League star?
I just feel like he's a player that doesn't have one position. He's a gadget player. I just don't think
Montgomery?
Yeah. So this is the trend that I was just going to talk about in the NFL. We've seen it with Ty Montgomery. We're seeing it now in Oakland with Cordell Patterson, who's using him as a running back. And now we're seeing it with Tavon Austin. We've seen it in the past with other guys like Randall Cobb and such, but this is kind of like a gadget player like that. Tyreek Hill, we're seeing it as well. Just you're trying to get these speedy guys that have good ball carrier vision, maybe good punt returners and so on, trying to get them the ball in different situations and using them as a change of pace. You don't want to give them more than 5 carries a game because they're too small and they can't take the hits, but you're just trying to get that playmaker the ball in any way you can. I like the idea personally, and he definitely ran well in this game, so you got to give him credit for that. Receiving-wise, the 2 Buffalo Bills, Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, both put in work. Near identical numbers, 6 receptions each, 108 for Robert Woods, 106 for Sammy Watkins, but Watkins did have 2 touchdowns. What was your thoughts on those 2 receivers?
Yeah, solid games. Not spectacular, but solid enough that they got the job done. Again, the 2 guys that you want to believe in, but sometimes you want to believe it. I'll believe it when I see it, but it was a nice breakout game, especially for Watkins, who I think had higher expectations. The Rams start getting this receiving game going. Their offense it has potential when their weapons are going. The question with the Rams is going to be, will these weapons be consistent, especially against good teams?
I think that mostly falls on their quarterback. If Jared Goff is consistent, then I feel like their weapons will be consistent because I believe in the talent of their weapons, especially a guy like Sammy Watkins and Todd Gurley. They have a lot of talent. It's just I think if Jared Goff plays a good game, they're going to play a good game. And they were set up in good situations, as I said. Sammy Watkins, I thought, looked a lot better in terms of his run after the catch. He looked strong. He was fighting for extra yards. I thought that when he was running some of his routes, he kind of didn't look as explosive. Since his foot injuries, he's kind of had trouble getting off the line against good corners. But I think he's starting to reform into what we saw early in his career. So we'll give him more time, but definitely had a bounce back game here. Definitely had a good game, and the 2 touchdowns were excellent. So. Then for the defense of the Rams, Ogletree had 9 tackles. Mark Barron had 7. Brockers had 6. Barwin had a sack. Donald had a sack. And the white guy, what was his name? What's his name? Longacre? Something like that? I don't know.
Longacre, that's right. Yeah.
and Fox with another sack. So a lot of pressure on Brian Hoyer in this game. Of course, you just got to bring it up. Aaron Donald, if Chris Collinsworth didn't do it enough for you, was unreal, disrupting the play everywhere. And this guy is a guy that literally had no training camp. He walked in one day before week 1 and said, I'm playing, and he started week 1. And now it's week 3. He looks like he's in midseason form. He's sacking the quarterback. He's disrupting the run. The guy is really, really good, the best at his position, and it definitely shows. I thought Mark Barron had some nice run stops. This guy used to be a safety and is playing in the box, and he's really become a better player at that position. Ogletree is kind of their tackle guy, so he did basically his job. Thought Trumaine Johnson didn't have his best game. He got burned a couple times by Pierre Garçon. He is their number 1 corner. He's paid like it. I didn't think he performed the best. What did you think about their defense tonight?
Yeah, I think they got
obviously it wasn't good.
They got a lot of pressure, but when Hoyer had time, and he was able to get it down the field, he started to burn them a bit. And one of the things that I was really kind of surprised about the 49ers last week when they were playing the Seahawks is they didn't use Goodwin a lot. And Sherman was hurt, and he's got a lot of speed. Sherman was kind of playing off of him a little bit. So once, for the 40, we'll get to the 49ers here in a minute here, but yeah, the secondary of the Rams seems to be one of their defensive weaknesses that I think if you got Wade Phillips and a couple of beers, he would be, I'd like to improve that. And Garçon made an incredible catch at one point during this game as well. But yeah, Rams secondary is suspect. Their front seven's pretty strong, especially when you got Aaron Donald in the middle. He's one of the top 5 defensive players in the league. So,
yeah, I thought Longacre, the guy that I don't know how to pronounce his name, was actually really good. Like, I noticed him a lot in the backfield. He was getting pressure up the middle. He was stopping the run. And he had that sack where he basically busts through and nobody was even blocking him. This defense, they're very aggressive. They're fast, but they're very aggressive. And I feel like Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme takes advantage of that really well because he likes to, stretch you out in the run, and then he'll do the play action, and it kind of gets all their linebackers and their D linemen moving. And I just thought, like, once they got that run game going early on, you could really tell that they were going to be, they were going to be able to pass the ball later in the game because the Rams were really stretched out and really, like, just not what's the word? Not stable, not I can't get the word, but they just weren't like playing their keys. They weren't on it. And I thought that Kyle Shanahan and this offense did a really good job of keeping them off balance. And we saw that as the game wore on. And they couldn't stop the pass even when they needed to. There were some big plays by guys like Garçon, Taylor, Goodwin, and they were terrible on deep balls in this game. I think there was like 3 or 4 deep balls that were executed to perfection. Like, the receivers outjumped them, the quarterback put it on the money, and they couldn't like play defense on it. So Rams definitely need to fix that. And this has been something that's been a trend now for 2 weeks where they've been bad against the run, which I thought they were better at towards the end of the game, but they were poor at the beginning, which set up the passing game towards the end. And they were definitely bad against the pass in this game. Going to San Francisco. Yeah, go ahead.
I do just want a couple of quick things. Donald caught a huge sack at the end, a clutch play there for sure. Yeah. Pretty questionable offensive PI call, though.
Yeah, that's one of the moments of the game where that was a terrible call. Mike Lombardi put out that was the worst call he's ever seen, which might be a little bad, but I didn't see anything that warranted a call on that. The guy, like Coach said, he texted me, the guy is 5'8", like 170 pounds, and he apparently pushed the corner away from him. I don't know about that. That's like Finn Balor beating Brock Lesnar in a wrestling match. But anyways,
Marky Mark believes it would happen.
Yes, he does. But I just... It was a terrible call. 49ers shouldn't have been called there. That was one of the biggest plays of the game. You let that go. And especially I'm mad at that because they've been letting those things go a lot more, especially towards the defensive side. So let the offensive guys get in there a little bit too. So I don't like that call at all. And I just thought, the Rams defense was not good. They did make the play when they needed to, but they were not good throughout the night. 49ers offense. Okay. Brian Hoyer, 23 for 37, 332 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, which was the first play of the game. He was sacked 4 times. I thought Brian Hoyer was on and off in this game. He did throw for 332 yards. I'm a Brian Hoyer fan. He protected the ball very well after that pick. Definitely. He did have that weird tip interception on the 2-point. He missed that play really bad. There are a couple of plays in this game where Brian Hoyer just wasn't there. He was too late on the pass to Taylor on the 2-point conversion, and it was a duck. He threw a couple of ducks short of guys. Even on one of the big 3rd down conversions, he threw it short for Garcon, and Garcon made a hell of a catch to convert the 1st down. Like, Brian Hoyer made some nice plays in this game. He protected the football when he needed to, but he also missed a lot of plays that were there. So that's a little concerning, but I still think he's the best option for this team. Kev, what did you think of Brian Hoyer's performance?
My observation was it seemed that the shackles were taken off of Brian Hoyer a little bit this week.
That was nice to see.
And I think what I'm sensing, and I could totally be wrong about this, is slowly but surely they're going to open up the playbook as the season goes on. They relied far too much on the run last week against the Seahawks, and they need to get the receivers involved. It was nice to see Hoyer stretch the field. It was partially because they were down by 2 touchdowns, though, too. But they do have some speed in the receiving core. Hoyer's got a pretty good arm, and if he's comfortable and has time, he can generally get you the job done. The 2-point conversion, he doesn't get it done there. Interception at the beginning gave the Rams easy points. Those were the 2 big differences in the game. But, he's the best option that the 49ers have right now.
Their running game, Carlos Hyde, 25 carries, 84 yards. Looks worse than it really was. He did get hurt like twice in this game and came back, so give him credit for being tough. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 huge run where he stumbled like on the 4-yard line, got back up and ran for 3 yards. That was big. He also showed a lot of power on that last touchdown to get them within 2 points. I thought Carlos Hyde ran well again. He looks like one of the best backs in the league, very, very underrated, and came through with 2 touchdowns. He also contributed in the pass game, as he's been doing, with 3 catches for 10 yards. He didn't get a lot of catches in this game, but he was there when they needed him. They were actually using, is it Breda? Breda or Breda? Yeah, one of them. Breda. 3 catches for 20 yards. Also ran the ball 3 times for 9 yards, so they used him a little bit as a pass-catching back. Pierre Garcon, 7 catches, 142 yards. Goodwin, 2 bombs, 62 yards. Juszczyk had that 1 long 34-yard catch. I'd like to see him used a little bit more in that regard. They did sign him for that. Taylor, 3 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Did have a couple drops, but he was creating separation in the slot, so that was nice to see. And that's pretty much their offense. What did you think of Hyde, Garcon, Goodwin, Taylor, and the boys?
Garcon made a couple of great catches. Made Tremaine Johnson Tremaine Johnson's going to have to look for his underwear on the field as the game ended, I'm sure. It's an underrated receiving core, but as I said, I think the 49ers are going to start letting the shackles off a little bit. Taylor dropped a couple balls, but could be a good weapon. They used Selleck. Selleck got a touchdown as well. So we're going to start to see that a little bit more. That's why I think the 49ers are the second best team, though, in the division. And I'm not necessarily convinced of anything different, even though they lost tonight. I just think that this team is going to grow as the season goes on. And I think I think what Kyle Shanahan's approach is, let's start slow, give a little bit of playbook, more playbook, more playbook, more playbook. And I think that's where the 49ers are going offensively.
Yeah, good points. In terms of Goodwin, I just wanted to bring this up. We saw a similar thing with Gabriel last year. It's kind of the same sort of player. I think that's what he's kind of going to become in this offense. I kind of said that in the offseason, but I think the more and more they play, the more and more they're going to use him kind of as that deep ball player that Gabriel was in Atlanta for them. Garcon is kind of, a lesser version of – he's kind of like a Sanu almost, but better. I wouldn't compare him to Julio,
Yeah.
but yeah, they maybe, we'll see. We'll see. But this offense definitely took strides today, and I think a lot of that had to do with Brian Hoyer. Like you said, the shackles were off, and he looked really good throwing the ball down the field. That's something you need to give him credit for. Defensively, they were awful. They got no pressure. They didn't have one sack in this game, which was their biggest issue, and you got to credit the Rams O-line because that's probably the reason why they won. They ran the ball. They passed the ball. They protected Jared Goff. But, I mean, I don't think one single guy on the defense for the 49ers was good in this game.
Yeah, nothing. I think they got 4 tackles for losses total.
They did. I'll give them this. They did stop the run when they needed to, except the last drive. Like the last 2 or 3 drives, they stopped them. But other than that, I don't know. They stopped them twice in the entire game. So
yeah, really, your top 2 tacklers are your safety and your quarterback, and then your third one is your safety. It's telling you a lot. I feel maybe their linebacking core is probably one of their weaknesses. I mean, Navarro Bowman is doing what he can. Ray Armstrong takes a lot of interesting chances. He did get a tackle for a loss, 4 tackles and 2 assists. He took a bad penalty against the Seahawks. Not sure about the guy's discipline. I feel the linebackers is probably where the 49ers seem the weakest. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their linebacking.
I like it, but they're definitely missing Foster.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up a couple of things. The 49ers were 2 for 3 on 4th down. They were the Rams were 8 for 12 on 3rd down, which is very good. And the 49ers were 9 for 18. And the last thing I just want to bring up is how much of a beast Johnny Hekker is. He had a 70-yard punt in this game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's the best punter in the league, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's incredible. So that's pretty much it. Any other things that you want to add? I guess let's look at the teams going forward, and what do you think about them, Kev?
As I said, I think that some people are going to be smiling on the LA Rams and getting a little excited about them, and I just think you need to temper the caution. Okay, they scored 40 points in their 2 victories, but it's against the Colts and the 49ers. And I just feel like there's enough that is going right with their potential. And I like their coach. I like the defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips. But I would be big time concerned about the secondary. I think that you can burn them badly if the Rams don't get enough pressure. I mean, Aaron Donald is a top 5 defensive player in the league, excuse me. But if you can stop him, contain him, I think the Rams can be had. I still, Mitch, give us credit. I think that we deserve a little bit of credit. We went out here on the Bottom Line View yesterday, and we had the guts to pick the 49ers in this game. And I think that the 49ers showed a lot. I'm higher on the 49ers. I think that this is a team that's getting somewhere. I don't think that this is they may end up 1-15 or 2-14. I could be completely wrong, but there's something building in San Francisco. It's coming. It's slow. If they get a quarterback, they get a wide receiver better than Pierre Garçon, who is their number 1 receiver. There are some legitimate things that can happen in San Francisco. So I'm interested in watching them this season because this is a team that I think can grow into something interesting going forward.
Yeah, so like I said before the season, the 49ers are a couple of years away, but I definitely like what I saw in this game. And for both teams, 49ers play the Cardinals on the road next week. That's a winnable game. It's a divisional one. And the other team, the Rams, plays the Cowboys. So that's going to be an interesting game as well. We'll see how legit that Rams team is against the Cowboys. Cowboys do have pretty easy one this week, I would think, against the Cardinals. They need to bounce back after getting shellacked by the Broncos. So we'll see what happens, but let's read the comments and then we'll say goodbye. So let's go to the comments. Joshua Perez says Steelers are the Bumblebees.
Yes, well, they have the legitimate. But those are, I actually like those Bumblebee jerseys. Those are better Bumblebee jerseys than the Rams Bumblebee jerseys.
The Seahawks fan, Mr. Mike, says, I was just about to say that the Rams play the Seattle Seahawks tough.
That's true, they do.
He says, I thought the 49ers was going to win.
So did I.
Fernando says, glad Hyde came back. I had finally put him in my fantasy team over Murray. Bodo says, what the hell? That game ruined by the refs. Thank you, refs.
Yeah.
Josh says, why are the NFL intros so lame now? Yeah, they're not that great anymore. And Bodo says, nothing like your fantasy week being over by Thursday. He played Gurley, so yeah, feel sorry for you, bro. He also says, LOL, Mitch says, if your quarterback plays good, the team does well. Really? Well, not always. Ask Drew Brees. Anyways, thanks, guys, for tuning in to, or Phillip Rivers, to the Bottom Line Views Thursday Night Football recap, the 49ers versus the Rams. Tune in next week for the Thursday Night Football recap, but also tomorrow there'll be the Stardom and Sid'em, the most popular football video on the channel, by the way. It's getting ratings, so make sure you tune into that one and find out why. Sunday morning, or Saturday, we have Kev's video of choice, which I'll get to just a second. Sunday, we have the Sunday NFL AM Live, where we talk about the games before they happen. And if you haven't seen the NFL predictions already, they're already up, so go there. And Sunday Night Football recap, Monday Night Football recap, and we'll have No Mercy as well if you're a wrestling fan covered this weekend. So, Kev, what's your video this weekend, bro?
I have, well, for those that watch the Monday Night Raw reviews, a gentleman has occasionally entered this room called the Actor. He came to us in the summer. He talks about acting. He feels he has so much to give, and he wants to give the top 5 actors in the National Football League are going to. So the Actor has done this video. I hope you like it. Poor Actor, he's sitting on the street now. He's home. He's a homeless man that likes to talk about acting. So we will hear from him.
Yeah, that's going to be a really entertaining one, I bet. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Follow Kevil on Twitter at Kevil. That's an easy one.
Simple.
For me, at Mitch Milani, and also at Bottom Line View for the latest updates. And subscribe to the channel, like the video. Peace out.